Yeah, we're ready to get started. All right, so now we'll start our public meeting, call to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance as always. So if everyone can stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So looking at tonight's agenda, are there any changes to the agenda that anybody has to bring forth?
Yes. Some change. All right. Charlie was supposed to be here. He had it written down. There was a change to the finance committee.
Would it have to do with approving the payment of for the what's the phrase in the contract? It's the buybacks. Teacher buybacks,
Oh, yeah.
paying
there
out
was
of
two retirement buybacks.
two retirement buybacks out of the 2023-24.
Yeah.
That's our practice to usually do it in a public way,
Yeah.
rather than just to do it.
So yes, retirement buybacks, and I should have the numbers on that by the
Okay.
time we get to that point.
So we'll do that in the action items.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe it's in the tune of 114, 115 around there.
It was about 115, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Sandy, we spoke earlier and we did have a tabled item from, I believe it was like a May 5th meeting regarding the waiver for the use of RMS for the basketball camp. So I don't know. I know we haven't revisited that, so we can discuss that in the action items as well. Okay, any other changes to the agenda? If not, we'll open it up for our first session of public comments. We don't have anyone here present in the lobby for public comments, and we'll give it a second for anybody online. Doesn't look like we have anything. Somebody should chime in the next minute or so, let us know, but I think we are probably safe to move on to student representative report, which we'll skip over. Maddie has graduated. We hope to get another student representative in the fall. So that leaves us with item number 5, the superintendent's report. So Ruben, we'll give you the floor.
All right, well, we've been out of school for a little bit and I just got back from a vacation. But last week, while I was away, the elementary school principals and assistant principals had orchestrated a 2-day event on, I believe, Tuesday and Thursday with the the newly developed elementary literacy leadership team. And they delved into wit and wisdom. They also did a lot of work with the actual materials themselves, getting familiar with that. And we'll do a couple more days in, I think, July and possibly August as well to prepare for the beginning of the school year, because they will be helping with a lot of the implementation to support other teachers and so forth, and maybe provide some beginning of the year PD, professional development. Along the lines of professional development, today's professional development took place here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week. We have our administrative retreat. And so the first day of that was the lead training from Wit and Wisdom. And so they came in to have to work with basically, again, all the building administration and some of the student services administration as well, so that they have an understanding of the philosophy, the materials, the expectations, the instructional shifts that need to take place. It's not just about materials and following a guide. It's about how to really support their teachers in strengthening a lot of different types of research-based, practices and skills. And making sure that it's done in a very collaborative, proactive and well thought out way. And that the feedback was that this in particular presenter did a great job. They felt that they got a lot out of it and are excited to go in and start our day off tomorrow. Keene State College has provided us the use of their space, their camp over at Wilson Pond for a few days to be able to do more planning. But before we do planning, we have a day of really just getting our minds focused on some things from the past, some conversation about the professional development, getting our minds kind of in a space that everyone's in tune with one another and working throughout, this pre-K through 12 type of system or mindset. And then we start thinking about future things. And so the second 2 days have a lot to do with just really giving time for them to get detailed planning done, detailed planning for the year, and to continue to plan out for the years following, but not necessarily in as heavy detail. So just because we're doing this large literacy initiative, which has been really part of our planning anyway, that needs to go on, that needs to go well. We need to see success there. What is success? All of that sort of thing. But then also we have other structures and other practices and other approaches that we need to continue to look at, either implementing down the road, which means we could do something, just a little bit next year perhaps, or the year after. Do we believe, for instance, in getting our kids outside more? Do we want them to be in the natural environment and learning from that? That's something that has been talked about. If so, then how is it going to be intentionally done? And what do we expect for outcomes? What type of training is necessary? All of that needs to take place. And then how are we linking our earliest learners to graduation? That's all part of that same conversation.
Ruben, did you say that was this week on Thursday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
and today was the professional development for what we call lead training. There's another one scheduled at the very beginning for teachers and paraprofessionals called launch training. And that's a full day event as well. That will be part of our early professional development days. And then we have some coaching sessions that we have planned out for the year as well. And I'm just going to try to get back online here.
This session this week.
All of the building administrators and special education, student services. There we go. So that was really, that's a lot actually that took place. I think all was very positive. There's a lot of work to do ahead. We were able to, before I was out on vacation, we were able to work with Leslie to get our final distribution out. And some of it highlights some ongoing conversations that we're having in the area of after school programming, CTE, which I have to get back to, the architects on that. We have some potential plans for doing some testing out here with the soil and the grounds before going too far down the design road. So that's a conversation that we'll have within the next day or two. Then also I have relative to CTE, I have a meeting scheduled for next week with the commissioner. It will be a Zoom meeting, so if anyone wants to attend that, you can certainly be part of that. But as we've had some changes with the superintendents in our two cooperating districts, I just wanted to be able to get ourselves back on the page with communicating to somebody. And the commissioner is the one who who has been engaged in this process already before I get back to working with some new people.
What date is that, do you know?
I'd have to look at my calendar. I believe it's the 10th, but I can give you that information.
Well, you're saying the 10th of July?
Yeah, I'll pull up my calendar right here.
Okay.
It's okay for people to see. Yep, the 10th at 2:30, it would appear.
So as far as the CTE goes, that's good that that's moving forward. I think that's smart, right? If we're proposing that
Mhm.
design out front to take that next step to confirm it's viable.
Mhm.
As far as the CART program, I know we had a comment here in a discussion, I believe was our last meeting or meeting before. Is there any update on that as far as the availability of programs or that issue being worked?
I think that specific issue has been worked out with the administration here. I'm pretty confident of that.
Is that in
The,
terms of scaling back if necessary, is that what the?
I think just helping the learners that want to have partake in specific programs.
Yeah, I was
We're talking about something different.
I switched topics from the proposed program
Yep,
sorry.
to, the current program and the availability of, specifically, I think. the engineering program.
So there was a conversation about engineering and whether our kids could get over to Milford. I mean, there's an opportunity cost there, going to Milford and getting over there so early and so forth there are difficulties with a lot of scheduling, but, I believe that we've been able to work out and, matters for all involved that desire something different. It's not perfect.
Right.
So, but I think what you were saying relative to CTE is the scaling back possibility of do we have 3 programs instead of 4 programs, 2 programs instead of 4 programs, or all 4 programs, but scaling back the designs? All of those conversations are still being had, and we have had with the architects. And I know that we are going back and forth with our contract with them right now. So we had our attorney vet the contract. We put some things in there that we would like to see, and it needs to go back and forth. In the meantime, they have a quote for the work that needs to be done out here to even just get information so that it can inform their design work. This summer, we plan on also getting the group back together that has already been, in the very beginning, to all those focus groups to start to talk about some of these possible changes and what would be our plan B or plan C going forward.
Yeah, I think to advertise and set those dates, I think plenty of advance will be important. But some of the feedback, I think we've talked about in the past, like with the proposal for the last high school, right? And kind of what went wrong, what we can do better, why it didn't pass. And I think a key part of that, at least that I've heard, I wasn't around, but in talking to people, was that, community involvement in it, not saying that it wasn't done, but I think any sort of efforts that we can go to be sure we're going above and beyond to be sure that the community feels like they're part of these decisions. They've had the opportunity for input, both in the design and the participation in it. I think it will be important. So I think just getting it out there and advertising it. Not sure what sort of participation we'll get, but
Mhm.
giving that opportunity, I think.
No,
I know everyone's busy, right? It's busier nowadays than ever, so.
public participation can be really hard to get.
Yeah, I know.
I was noted that when Barker made their proposal, one of the things that really caught my attention was that they had a subcontractor whose focus was specifically public participation. How have they been working with that? Or do you have a sense that they are effective?
Yeah, well, I think they did a good job the first time around. I think that, they were instrumental in helping us get these focus groups. Certainly, we had to do a lot of the legwork as well, but they were kind of guiding us and helping us plan all of that. And I just met with them, not last week, but the week before. with that group. So that's Ashley McGraw. So it's Barker
Oh, yeah.
Architects and Ashley McGraw. And they are the people, the team that works on that part of it, was basically setting up, the conversation about needing to do something in the fall, more widespread, but also doing something in the summertime that was more focused on the group that exists already. So keep the people who already indicated that they're interested in this, already gave you feedback, keep them in the loop, especially if we're talking about potential information changes.
I see that being very important.
Can I ask you about the flyer?
Sure.
What I wanted to ask was, our Ringe board members, have you received this and when did you receive it?
Yeah, I think last week.
Okay. The reason I ask, I received it either Monday or Tuesday, and on Thursday, a couple of people asked me questions about some of the things that were in there, and I mentioned the flyer, and they hadn't received it yet. It happened
this
to
in
be two
Jaffrey?
people No, there were two people from Ringe.
I saw it on my neighbor's table, but I never actually got one.
Yeah, I never got one.
Okay, so that's 2 out of 3.
I never had one, but I saw it. I was like, oh my gosh, these went out. And I never even actually dawned on me that I didn't get one. I was just like, that's so cool that it's on her counter. I never even thought that I didn't get one, but I didn't.
Okay. I mean, we've had difficulties
Yeah.
in years past.
It's been ridiculous.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I. We've had a few interesting conversations.
Yep.
That's unfortunate if that's the case.
What, is there an appropriate way to address that issue?
I think yeah. I think we gotta, we can start with, talking to the people at the post office, indicating that
Yeah,
we've had
yeah.
individuals state that they haven't received this information. We post everything online as well, and we put it out, usually category by category or section by section on Facebook, but then you're still only dealing with a certain, like 2,000 people, and they're not necessarily all in the community.
I thought that was very well done. It's a shame if everybody doesn't get to see it.
Yeah, it's got some good information. We had to cut out a lot of information. So we picked what we thought was the most important. I think RMS needed to understand that they were going to have STEM next year, and that JGS needed to understand that there are people who are behind the scenes working to try to get something for their kids. I mean, when that was posted online, individuals were like, hey, sign me up, can I help? That sort of thing. Because we know it's needed. We know it's needed.
Right. And it's part of that public participation because
Right.
people read that thing or they hear something and they go back and remember they put that in a stack of
Well,
other things.
also, we put in there the Rotary Club in the town of Jaffrey. Other people need to hear that other groups are wanting to support the same, it's not just a school. The town is trying to do good things, and these nonprofit organizations that are about service are trying to do good things, and their local college is trying to do good things for the community, that people care. So any type of communication that we can do that's accurate, we want to be able to provide to the public.
Community school, right?
Yeah, well, and honestly, some of this conversation was tied in with the community schools grant that we had. And even though this is not centered on early childhood, birth through 5, for instance, after school programming is tied in with that same conversation and the contacts that I am now working with through our groups that have been provided to me from our contacts with that grant. So we have some work to do this summer.
Is that flyer available anywhere online? I'm not seeing it. Like on the website?
Well, let's go take a look. I don't know,
Yeah, I didn't see it in the school.
but if we go to important links and district-wide newsletter, school district news, 23-24. July 2023, December, so it is not on there, not in this space right here, anyway. yet.
So we do have some changes coming up that we need to notify people about. For instance, the change in times for the grade schools. It's a big one, and the change in the cost of lunches. But particularly, I think households need to plan around the change in the school day.
Why did I not know about school days?
So we have to finalize things with the bus company. I don't think they're gonna see a significant change due to the fact that the buses kind of arrive at a later time frame anyhow.
Mm.
And so you'll probably won't see that drastic a a day. We're not gonna start the day earlier. Because that would mess up the buses here, yeah, so. We are going to have a conversation with the bus company. I think hopefully at the next school board meeting, I'll have had that conversation, be able to report. A variety of things that I want to have conversations with them about, not just about the start times and end times and. Pick up and drop off and bus routes, but also looking at the buses and the driving that we have and how can we reconfigure some things to provide us better, the school better support. Which might also tie in with after-school programming, so. Any other questions? Comments? Thoughts?
How was Mexico? How was your vacation? Did you rest?
I think that there were some really neat experiences. I was able to go on a little adventure out in the jungle area into some cenotes, underground caverns, stalactites and so forth, filled with water, and so going through those was guided.
Did you dive well?
Yeah, I did try to dive. I should have had some flippers or something like that, because you go down and wow, your ears do pop. I don't spend a lot of time in deep water. But no, it was really enjoyable and, hang out with some bats flying above your heads. It was really cool. So.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments for Ruben? We'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, John. Somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Christine. Any discussion on this week's consent agenda? See, we have a number of manifests, nominations, resignations, and the stipend list, so all
The
fairly
change.
standard.
Yep, the change to consent is, I don't have the numbers, but it was 115,000. 2 retirement buybacks to be processed with this current fiscal year funds that have been approved. That's part of the 200,000 that we approved. The reason we have that some of that leeway, not all of it, is some furniture at RMS supply chain issues caused that to be pushed into the next year. So we're kind of trading some money for one and just deciding, this leaves an opening to be able to take care of some of this funds. And so, yeah, it just makes sense to do it now on this side of the fiscal year.
Okay. Since we've added that, the consent agenda. Any discussion?
I just had a quick question. The resignations of the paras, do you know the schools of those paras?
I don't off the top of my head. One of them is from RMS.
That's okay,
And
just
two, I
say-
think two from RMS.
That one's from JGS, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And these were expected, or is this a situation where we're like, oh, great, now we have to get. a bunch
Well,
more?
first of all, actually, I'm looking at this. There is an error on this, and I didn't pick it up. So Elizabeth Pullman is not a para educator. She is a kindergarten teacher.
Oh,
Do they do exit interviews with people that are leaving? Do we know why are they leaving?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I know very well why Elizabeth
Okay.
is leaving. It's a positive thing for her.
Okay,
As for the paraprofessionals, these individuals right here, I have not had conversation with. Sometimes they ask to meet with me. I've had a few exit interviews the last, I would say 3 weeks. But they have a digital one that they can fill out, and they can also talk to, they get to HR personally too.
Okay.
I think we've discussed this before, but the digital one, is it anonymous? And who does it go to?
Goes to HR. I don't think it's anonymous.
Because I remember a lot of,
I think that would be hard because the digital ones, yeah, I don't think it's anonymous.
it would be hard. I think I remember discussing this before when we were having a lot of turnover and how it's really hard
Mhm.
for teachers to be honest about why they're leaving. Either out of fear of the next school or repercussions here. I guess there couldn't be really if they're leaving.
Yeah.
But just not wanting to really speak up or say anything. Because and even, I guess there would be repercussions, because if you think about like the timing of them resigning and then trying to get another job, then there could be some resentment or some issues, and then they may not get the review that they would want to, like a recommendation that they would want to go to a different school. If they had just said to you exactly why they were leaving, and now they're trying to go somewhere else, and you're like, not you, whoever it is that gets the call is like, oh, well, I'm not gonna give them such a great review because they said all this stuff about what is happening here. Just a thought. I don't know how that's redeemed or fixed or whatever, but that's a good
Yeah.
question, because I do remember this being something when we're having a lot of resignations, and how we can make it so that people can actually say, this is why I'm leaving,
Right.
without, I guess, repercussions. Or feeling like scared.
if there's a problem, how are you gonna fix it if you don't know about it?
Which
If
is
there's
a
a,
very
if there's a
difficult-
theme
Right,
that they're leaving.
right. And I think that's a common issue just in general for people to not want to bring things up. Let's say they're still here, but there's still some issues within the school, and they're feeling like, how does this get brought up without me being reprimanded? I don't know if there's a way to fix any of this, but that's really difficult.
Yeah, well, I think that, I mean. I think a couple things. Is that in years past, and certainly every year that I've been here, until this last couple of years, really. And going back in history, it was a long time prior to that as well. There was a very significant turnover, I think, from year to year. And so a lot of the feedback that we have had, and cultural issues that have been cited and so forth, certainly all the schools have worked on those through time. And I think that we see, even though this particular, like, for instance, we'll take a teacher, for instance, this individual, leaves. We have we have a couple of retirees, we have some people who, move to other locations and so forth, but by and large, right now, we're in a spot where, people are remaining, we're very grateful for the retention of that, of our individuals. And I think that's as a result of everyone working together to help add to a positive culture. Because really, culture is why people stay or leave. And, so, I mean, we can certainly it's hard, it would be hard, it's hard to create something that's completely confidential. It would have to be a very generalized, multiple choice type of situation
Or it
almost.
could be handwritten, couldn't it?
Well, it could be handwritten, certainly, but any type of story that someone is going to tell is going to be identifiable. And so, if you're going to actually take the information and, analyze it for what you're saying you
Mhm,
want to analyze it for, it's.
I think we did talk about
it's
that
helpful too.
and making them very, very general.
We do, the digital one is, leaves them the opportunity to say something, or they can check, threes, fours, fives, whatever it is, like, very good, good. How's your salary, average, above average, things of that nature. So there are some that, yeah.
Those are all attached to an email.
So there's some value there. There's some value to that. That doesn't really, without qualitative information, you don't gain a whole lot of insight.
Would it make a difference in terms of what we're talking about if people could, have an interview where they don't have to put something in writing, but where they can talk about, the factors that made the job less attractive?
Yeah, I mean, they have that option.
They have
They don't
that.
have to, they don't have to fill out the digital one, no.
With who?
They can choose who they want to have it with. I mean, like I said, a couple people have chosen to have it with me.
I mean, I know, I do remember also we did discuss it where people have asked for them, and if they are let go, we know that there's more of a anger situation, but if they're resigning, I guess there could also be, I don't know, I can't remember the conversation about it, but I remember us discussing like, well, obviously, if we talk to this person, they're ticked off because they're leaving, so all you're gonna hear is complaints.
Yeah, I think if we were gonna, I mean, if I were gonna summarize at this point in time, I mean, we've only really had a couple of years of this type of information, this type of data. Individuals who leave, obviously the position could be have been cut. That would do it. There's people need to find other avenues for, financial reasons. And sometimes that involves a move out of state to further away. That's happened. There are situations where they choose to go, these are fewer, but it does happen. They go to a different school and the conversation has been about pay. And depending on where you are, living, if you're living toward the center of the state more, you have options to go the opposite direction, which is going to have a usually higher pay scale. When we have individuals who I think left, if I were to go for, say, 3 years back, definitely left for philosophical reasons. Reasons having to do with that they saw the direction this school or elementary schools were going in and saying, nah, this is my time to go to something else that I feel like I fit in more. I think that would be an accurate way of saying it. And I think those are all good reasons. A lot of it has to do with proximity. We do have quite a few people who travel.
Seems like the problem there has been more in the support staff and custodial positions and the paraprofessionals.
Yeah, I would say it's shifted that direction. Or at least that's maintained while the teachers are more likely to stay. So people in the JREA are staying, people in the JRSSA have a little more movement. Part of it is while we are definitely very competitive with others, it probably better off so in many ways with our support staff contracts than the area. There are a lot of different types of jobs that pay similarly as well that aren't within a school system. And so we have that to consider. If we're hiring individuals who are in various stages of life, who are trying this out to see if this is something they want to do, schooling might be the next thing in their line, or no, this isn't what I want to be doing. And then, I think it's fair to say this is no secret that a lot of these jobs are difficult. Society is different. The needs of our kids are different and ever evolving. And I think that it takes a lot of work. And it's not that all these people are hard workers, but it's not about the physical and the tiredness, it's emotionally draining. And I think that when you're working with individuals who have a lot of needs sometimes, whether it be academic needs, I think those are the easier ones to work with, really. But if you have kids or adults, working with adults can be tough. There's a lot of emotions behind working with people. And so I think that can play a factor sometimes. No one has told me that directly.
Really? No one's told you that they're just burnt out?
Oh, burnt out is different.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments on the consent agenda? All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? All right, that's approved. 6-0.
What was your question?
I just was asking if somebody seconded it.
I did.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Christine has seconded that motion. Okay. Thank you.
So moving on to action items. The first action item we have is the proposed school board meeting calendar.
Wait, what about the minutes?
I didn't see any minutes on the agenda.
Yeah, we.
Oh, I get what you're saying. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Spot there.
I'm sorry, you're
Spot
right.
there reserved. So. Not sure. If everyone had a chance to review this, because I'm looking to you guys to see whether you have or not. It's fairly standard. I'll say that in reviewing it, our next meeting will be in one meeting in July. That's the 15th. And then I think the other meeting dates that were moved were a meeting that was on Labor Day. Moved to the 9th, but we still have 2 meetings in September. And there was a meeting moved for Martin Luther King Day, I believe. It's like the 23rd. Other than that, it just follows the normal schedule. Any comments or questions on the school board calendar?
I'll make a motion to accept the school board calendar as presented.
Thank you, Lisa. We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kim. All those in favor of the proposed school board calendar, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? The school board calendar is approved. 6-0. Next item is the proposed committee meetings calendar. I believe Leslie was in touch with most of the committee chairs in order to set this committee. Does anybody have any comments on the proposed schedule? Go ahead, John.
So the facilities committee did not meet in June to date, but we do have plans to meet this Thursday at 1 p.m. And so we will be having a meeting this last week
Okay,
of June. And
yeah, I think that wouldn't be covered by this calendar technically.
But that's good
Right.
information. So
Yeah,
June
good
27th.
June 27th, that's right. At 1 p.m. And yeah, I guess that's all.
Okay,
Oh, and I wanted to ask also, there are a couple of, well, I guess, communications committee.
yeah. Well, we need to get this on here. It hasn't been on there in the past. It's something that we need to add. I think I can. Perhaps I'll take that action to set that schedule. And maybe we can, I guess my recommendation right now would maybe defer this until we can get that schedule on there,
Okay.
and we can approve it at the next meeting. And maybe, Lisa, we can get some detail with regard to the legislative committee as well.
I kind of pictured this was the general times and then they would
Yeah.
have changes. Do
Yep.
we need?
Well, I think we should maybe try to target some. I do want to do that for the
Okay.
communications committee anyways, and we can decide with the
Yep,
legislative committee.
Another
Next
option
meeting
would
on the
be
15th.
to, is you don't have to, that's perfectly acceptable. I would say another option is to approve this and then
Amend it.
amend it when you have the other ones.
Is wellness not?
Yeah, I
regular?
thought about
Wellness
asking
is
Brett
not
about this.
in the policy as it's like a school
Oh, that's
board
right.
Right,
committee, but it's been really, it's been quite a well led in the sense from the school board, like focused area. There's been a lot of work that's been done in wellness over the last 5 years in particular. And so the school board has taken a great interest in that and has made sure that that has been important. So we could always change our policies with that, and the communication one at one point in
Yeah.
time also wasn't.
Yeah,
I
I
don't-
think
Yeah,
we should
so we
decide
could
that.
probably decide that. too.
Yeah, so I'm open either way. If somebody wants to make a motion to approve this one, I think that's probably appropriate. And we could have always probably actually a good idea, and then we can amend it as needed, just so we can have these dates at least set.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Thank you,
committee
Kim.
meetings.
Anyone want a
second it.
Second, thank you, Sandra. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the 2024-2025 school board committee meetings as proposed, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
All those opposed and abstentions. That passes 6-0. And we will move on to the next item, which is donation of furniture and equipment from Southern New Hampshire University.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation from Southern New Hampshire University.
Thank you,
for
Lisa.
up to and including $50,000.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lisa.
second,
Thank you, John, for seconding. Any further discussion? I know we just discussed this for the 15 minutes of the public hearing. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the furniture donation, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
aye,
All those opposed? Abstentions? That passes 6-0 as well. As far as additional action items, we had previously, as I talked about in the change of the agenda, tabled the facilities waiver request for the Pure Shot basketball camp for the dates of July 29th to August 2nd. I'm looking at the waiver right now. I think I remember there were some questions at the time as to whether there were more dates, whether it was incomplete. I don't think that's, to my knowledge, that's not the case.
Are dates settled for, and I know that Franklin Pierce University is being used for a great deal of it, but is our dates kind of settled? I think the question was, it's showing one date. Is that it? Is things weren't current? Or is what they're asking for this summer accurate to?
You're talking about for Pure Shot?
Mhm.
Isn't that rec related?
It is.
It was a waiver about using the Ringe facilities. It's also for profit.
Mm.
We have nonprofit. Yeah, it's one of those gray areas, who's getting the money for that.
I guess I didn't look further. I saw that it was
Using
at
our
Franklin Pierce. I didn't know.
facilities without but they don't want to pay, or it's going through the rec department. So it was one of those weird that we just didn't have any information on,
Okay.
and there wasn't enough in here. So is there any new information?
I don't know. I don't have any new information on that.
I have to, yeah, I haven't looked back into it. I forgot about that. And so the question really we have to ask is it being done through, like, as this person is a private contractor with them, or is it an employee of the rec department? There's a difference between the two. One, the recreation department, if they're an employee, they're covered with insurance and so forth in the recreation department. If not, then there has to be personal liability insurance. And so that is where I think the difference would end up being. Whatever their financial arrangement is almost secondary to that piece.
There's 2 weeks of Pure Shot from that I've seen. Okay, so then I don't know about the first week, but I know that so Pure Shot week 2 is all at Franklin Pierce, Monday through Friday. Pure Shot week 3 for grades K through 4 is all at Franklin Pierce Fieldhouse.
So week one's at the field house too, so it may not,
So I don't think it's an issue.
they may not be using any of our facilities.
Yeah, they haven't
Because
followed
it
up.
still
with
says
this.
Ranger Memorial School.
Where?
I saw it in some flyer and it said Ranger Memorial School.
Okay, I just was looking online at
Okay.
the rec setup, and I'm only saying that I only have it right here because I just signed up for it.
Okay,
So
then
What
you
about the
probably
dates
have
of
more
the
current
29th
information.
To the August 2nd.
that's also for grades K through 4, and that's the 29th to the 2nd. That is Monday through Friday at the 8:30 to 12 at Ringe Memorial School gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm bringing it up.
Why did I must have pushed the same one twice. My bad. Because I thought I saw Franklin Pierce for both of them. That's the one. It does say that.
So truthfully, I mean, this is a long-standing organization, local organization. I want to be careful about setting a precedence in saying technically for profit can use our facilities simply because they're local, long-standing. We have to be careful of precedents as well. This is, I don't know, in my time since we have created this policy, we have not said no. We simply want to know.
Yeah,
And I would say this falls under that. This is we want to make sure that we're monitoring, and that was the intent of the policy. The intent of the policy was not to recoup lots of fees. It
Right.
was to say, the board needs to know
yeah,
who's using it, the damage, what kind of damage is being done over time, how much activity is happening, who's using this predominantly. So
Mhm.
in light of all those questions, which I believe was the intention of the policy, I would like to go ahead and say yes to the waiver tonight. It's coming up very quickly. They've already advertised it. We simply want to know.
and it is for our towns
It is,
through the Ringe Rec.
it is.
right.
So I agree with you.
And when he did that through the Jaffrey rec, the town of Jaffrey paid him.
Okay,
So that it came from the rec. The rec took the
Perfect.
money and the rec department paid him.
okay,
Now, the insurance I don't know the whole thing, but there
That's
was a
what-
paycheck for him from the rec department weekly for
So,
this.
and any money, like any of that, and I'm sure it's not a lot, but any of that money doesn't go back to any custodial work happening at our facility. You know, it's like, it's tough, you know, that's great. You guys are getting paid to do this. You're using facilities that are depreciating. And, you know, so so it is, this is, you know, something we still we want to keep struggling with. I would say yes to the waiver.
Agreed.
All right, so is that a
Don't
motion?
make a motion.
All
I'll
right,
second.
thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Kim. All of those in favor of approving?
Just discussion.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Well, that's what,
additional discussion.
I think, you know, this is a good idea and the distinction between, you know, using your own staff versus using the staff of a for-profit, you know, group that's doing this for you. I think I think that's a small distinction in a way, but I think the way to work out those issues or ask legitimate questions is through like an MOU. Which I know you've been making efforts to work on, because that's where you can say, okay, well, you're doing this, but you're using this kind of company. What's your
Right.
justification?
To have a for-profit included in the MOU would be lovely. Yeah.
I think if Charlie were here, he'd agree.
I know, he'd applaud.
Print it on a t-shirt.
I don't know. So thank you for, I totally agree with your point there, John, and thank you for bringing that up. The MOU should cover this situation exactly.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding us of
Yeah.
that, that's coming up quickly and
Mm.
we want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're
Yeah.
doing our part.
Absolutely.
We're asking them to do this part. We want to make sure we are. So thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, so all those in favor of approving the waiver, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed and abstentions?
I think I should have abstained.
Hmm.
I'm not sure, but
Didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
just because I have a kid enrolled.
Well, if that's the case, so do
Yeah, I
I.
guess I need to.
Oh, no, wait, no, I don't, not in that level.
Well,
Oh,
I don't
I don't know.
think that I don't think it matters.
Okay, then I'm in favor. of
Only
it,
if you
but
feel
then-
there's a
No,
conflict.
and that's a personal, like,
Yeah.
that's a pretty personal, you know, that's a.
Okay.
Are we ready?
believe that is all. of
The exciting part's coming
I
up.
know, I can't believe
All
we're
of
doing-
the action.
we're gonna do
items.
this.
So I'm gonna hand it over to Lisa to talk about the proposed policies.
All right, would you please open up the first policy, gang culture and criminal activity? So in 2005, we approved a policy that talked about gangs. And it was very brief. And it really talked about the secret societies and what we really televise as a gang. In our schools and in our community, there's getting to be more and more of a gray line as far as the behaviors that we're seeing that cross boundaries that we don't really have much say in, but we have influence in and definitely influence us. And so we wanted to the policy committee wanted to take a closer look at our gang policy to talk about, is there a way to update this to actually make it relevant? You know, it's not to make it be able to say our values, what we value clear without making it sound outdated, antiquated, out of touch. I will say that in looking up this policy and doing a deep dive, I had to go pretty far to find other school districts that have this policy. Most school districts don't. I actually got a good deal of this language from Fitchburg and Leominster. I had to go to places that were much more urban to get this. But I felt that in our current culture that we need language to be updated and relevant to what our society, our local society is dealing with. And so we fought over this for a couple months. We talked about this the language of this, because to all of us, every time it said gang, I'm thinking Jets and Sharks, and what were you saying? Kim?
Bloods and Crips.
Bloods and Crips, we we wanted this to feel.
So I think of.
Yep, and so I did some deep diving and I kind of put some language together, and we liked the term gang culture, where, yeah, it's not just everybody's tagging everything, but it's this cultural organized group focused on criminal activity, focused on certain behaviors. So some of the language we put into this, involvement in gang culture, which initiates, advocates, promotes activities which threaten the safety or well-being of persons or property, disrupts school environment, it's harmful to the educational process. So the very first sentence is what we value. This is why we're bringing it up. And that is generally what we had before. I just think that updated language using the word culture brings that in. I found a journal article, did some librarian research and found a journal article that affiliated gang culture with antisocial activity. And I liked that phrase as well. It's not just, again, it's not just tagging everything, graffitiing everything. That can't be the image we're getting. It's antisocial, it's against society. It's against societal norms. And defined by aggressive and destructive behavior. That was directly from the article, and I can send that article to anybody who would like that. I didn't add a link to it. It was one of those long links. But I did borrow that from it. This says the same, like, it doesn't change what we do. The superintendent still has the authority to provide training. So that's, which I would love to see. What does a gang culture look like now? What does it look like when there's a group of learners who want the authority and will do what they can to take it? That is where we are. So there's, I like the language at the last sentence where provide in-service training, looking for behaviors and characteristics. And I also like the, I think it says, I'm trying to see where the student was subject to discipline, including suspension and expulsion, but also education is part of that, I believe. So I'm going to recommend this policy. Tonight's the first reading, so please take a look. Again, this is about verbiage and staying relevant. And if there's more we want to add to it, let's definitely look at that. Okay.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah,
It is
think that-
interesting because kids throw, if you look up gang signs,
I'm sorry, I can't.
if you look up gang signs, like images, kids are doing selfies. Or just silly photos, they're constantly throwing gang signs, so that's the.
And is there a difference between playing, like experimenting? Is there a difference, and it has to do with the criminal activity, antisocial behavior, all of these,
Intent.
what is the purpose? Is the purpose entertainment and kind of feeling the oats, or is this targeted? So there's gotta be ways that we can recognize that so that we're not jumping the gun. We're not, as adults, we're not saying, oh my God, look at that tattoo, and yes, Sandy, I'm looking at you.
Affiliated with.
So we're not, we're not automatically working with our biases. We want to be able to be reasonable. So what is reasonable and what is actionable and what is saying, wow, this is something we have to really be trained in and focus on. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a downside in having a policy like this.
Mhm.
To really strive for. I'd be interested in. Yeah, administrators' perspective, I don't know. I assume this was discussed with administration as well. And, I just don't see a downside in having it, so thank you. So that's first reading. Do we want to move on to the academic integrity? Second reading?
Yes. I am ready.
She
Okay.
does.
So at our policy committee this week, we had brought this policy to the board a couple of board meetings ago to ask to wait 2 board meetings to bring it back so that everybody had time, especially the admin, had time to take a look at it and respond. This is very much our current academic integrity policy. The yellow means this has been updated by the New Hampshire School Board Association. So the policy committee did not edit this at all. This is New Hampshire School Board Association's updates to incorporate AI, artificial intelligence, into the conversation. Saying that we are not seeking to ban AI. First of all, that would be ridiculous, but and simply not possible, but are there ways that we can incorporate it safely so that our faculty can do their jobs and know that students are accurately portraying their work, so that students can be creative and innovative and get further depth, so that faculty can save time in their lesson planning and be creative in how they might implement 21st century skills into things. There's a lot of good that can come from this, but we have to start from a place of how are we going to keep everybody safe and make sure that we are protecting our values again, back to values. So I didn't get any, personally, as the chair of the policy committee, I didn't hear any response from admin, except I had some good conversation with the IT director, Mike Cotton, and shared shared many concerns about, what these conversations are, how many people are asking for this, and we don't want to close the barn door on something that's already released. And I asked him, does this policy address many of your concerns? And he said, yeah, it did. He still would like to hear from admin. But he was pleased with the policy and thought that it did address some. So there's.
So what's your recommendation for this? Do you think we should continue to kind of wait over the?
So here's the
summer
thing.
For some,
Our next meeting isn't until July 15th.
correct?
This policy needs to be addressed in the student handbooks and in the staff handbooks. Both this policy and the next policy are very relevant to our handbooks, which are, I hope, being written now. So this actually has to be,
Time has been given.
yeah. So,
If they needed to say something.
So,
so we have asked for the input and
right, so this is because we do a lot of our planning at our admin retreats. This is a topic that we would bring and have a more collaborative conversation about and bring, that was the hope to do that this week. And get that feedback. I mean, I do have some feedback, but from verbal this kind of conversations. For instance, the minimum consequences should or shall be a 0 doesn't even fit our philosophy of consequences. So I know that would be a matter. Well, I don't necessarily see a whole lot of argument with the majority of this, but I would think that would be something where some different wording would be valuable. But things like this and the next one, which need to go into handbooks and so forth, they have to map out what's going to be put into handbooks, what's changing and all that as well. So this will be part of that conversation.
so can we table this to the July 15th meeting? In the hopes to have that be, we'll put this on for a 3rd reading.
Yep.
Okay,
Is
Well,
communication
that will be my
devices
recommendation.
fall into the same category?
let's take a look at it real quick
Alright.
to just publicly say why we would do that, but
Perfect.
I would agree. So the JICJ communication devices actually is a substantial change to our current policy. This is again reflecting more relevant, more current usage of cell phones, and it's substantial. So, this is something that is very much needed in the handbook to have it updated. And this particular policy is different enough. And New Hampshire School Board Association has not updated theirs either. I think both theirs and ours mentioned BlackBerries as a device. You know, yeah.
Kind of like
So
pagers.
yeah, oh, pagers, that was mentioned, pagers.
Telegrams.
So we needed to update this. I liked this because this one separates K-8 from the high school and recognizes that at the high school level, there might be reasons. I can think of cahoots, for example. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that, you know, you want kids to have quick access to their phones. It's a thing now. And honestly, I mean, phones is going to be outdated soon too. Everybody's wearing watches now. You know, that's how many, you know, are walking around with little buds. So this is, you know, this is something that's always going to need to be updating. We need to get in the handbook a current policy that teachers especially can say, oh, this is the policy.
That they
Great.
back it. too,
You know,
right?
they need to be able to go to something, and if this needs to be fleshed out deeper, please do. Like, if we need more stuff with it.
We talked about this last time too, and just saying like, this is such an easy thing that takes the pressure off the teacher. Put this in your classroom. And that's all you have to do is be like, it's right here in black and white. Like, let's take the argument out of it. There's no reason for teachers have to be like, get ready for phone. Like, it's right here. These are your consequences. This is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Done. No more conversation needed.
This would be a really good policy to highlight on Facebook or in a newsletter or something, so that parents and learners are aware of it before the first day of school.
Yep.
So I think this is a perfect example of us, you know, over the next couple of days talking and getting some feedback. Over the last week, been reading this book, The Anxious Generation. It's just come out months ago. And it talks about all the research from when the smartphone was developed to basically what he calls the rewiring of childhood, you know, in 2010 to 2015, the great rewiring and the impacts. And so there are very specific recommendations, not just about devices, actually just about how we operate with the world around us in any way, and then take on risks and things of that nature. But also what can schools do to, you know, do their part in helping maybe reverse some of the very concerning trends that have spiked, specifically in the area of mental health, primarily with certain groups of individuals, as well as increase in suicide, things of that. You know, his argument is he links this to, for females in particular, to social media and those who are well, that's the primary, and then also you know, males in a slightly different way, and then there's some overlap, of course, and nothing is very specific always to just one group. And so I think that having some of these conversations tomorrow also will help with some of this.
Okay, all right. So table to the 15th.
Very current.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Next up, we have board committee updates.
I'd love to say I'll start with education, but I missed it.
Oh, you missed a good video too.
Oh, shoot.
Oh my goodness, I almost cried.
Oh,
So sweet. I'm not gonna tell you about it.
well, thanks. So maybe she has some highlights for you, but I think I truly just forgot. I have no idea what was going on.
Such a busy time of year.
I think my daughter also had a sickness, so that wasn't easy. I don't know when it was.
Well, it was, special education student services update. We heard about the staffing updates and my goodness me, the hiring of creating a position for grade 6 to 12 reading specialist. We learned about the number of teachers that are needed and the fact that, you know, college students just really aren't studying special education anymore. Let's see, 100% of our special ed students passed the citizenship test that was necessary to graduate. Think about that. That is very impressive. We heard about the number of meetings that our special ed staff need to attend or host for charter schools. Students from our district who go to charter schools who need learning services that are provided by us. So all of that, all of those extra meetings, travel time.
Do you know if that's identified students or is that just who they think should be identified? Or is it actually identified kids who went there as identified?
It's both. So meetings, so individuals who are up for, you know, or being recommended for services or to
Okay.
be tested at least for those services.
Okay.
That's probably your higher percentage.
Or who they think should be, as opposed to who's already
Who's
identified.
being brought forward, yeah.
Got it.
Mhm.
Sorry, I just was wondering about that.
That's a good question.
How many meetings are we talking about?
101 out of district meetings with charter school students, related to charter school students, is that what I wrote down?
Yeah, I think there were 700 or 800 meetings altogether for the year, and then 100 of those were relative to charter schools. Some of them in Keene, or one in Keene.
Wait, why do we do Keene?
We have
Yeah.
learners from Jaffrey. who go-
I get
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
saying,
who go
because
over.
our kids are,
Yep,
okay.
who attend over there.
Wait, by choice? Or by we send them?
No,
Nope, we don't send,
By choice, they choose which charter school to go to and we follow them.
that is correct.
That's kind of screwy, isn't it? I
It
mean,
makes
you know,
it makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
For us, but
I mean, you can see the logic of the student lives in the district, but then when they choose to study that far away,
Would that change with school, if
I will
the state
say-
was school choice,
sorry.
would that change?
it depends on how they define school choice, right? So I think that currently the state has decided that choice has to do with a voucher and how that can be used and what group of individuals can utilize that. I will say, because I don't think it's controversial, I think it's just an interesting statement to say that it's when money is given to individuals that go to schools that don't have the same type of accountability that the public school has to have. I think that's something to consider for your legislative group, the board's legislative priorities. You know, we receive federal funds, we receive state funds. There's an argument out there that, okay, giving people choice, giving people funds to make some choice, if choice is that valuable, if that's what the push is, then utilizing those dollars to other locations that also actually have accountability in them. So rather than dollars going with little to no accountability. It was very concerning this year when no one provided an audit of where all the money is going. And it was blocked. That's, you don't block things that you're proud of. You don't block things that are, that you want to highlight as positives?
May I go next? That's a nice segue.
Oh, wait, I just want to say one thing though. So there's, I've got quite a bit of information about some changes that are being made. There's going to be, at RMS, there's going to be an eagle's nest, which is based off the owl's nest at JGS. That was very successful, I believe. As a place where kids can take a moment
Oh, right, right,
Right?
right. Oh, cool.
to come around and calm down, or I know that was pretty popular at JGS. And we watched a video about the restorative classroom at JGS, which was very moving. And I'm sure that's going to be on the YouTube link, and would that be on the YouTube link? Because it has students on it.
We did not record that piece
Okay.
because of
Great.
it being identifiable to other learners. Yep.
I missed that. It was wonderful, very impressive.
And actually, I'd have a question for the education committee. Does the education committee get updates on end of year grades and stats on, kids moving up, kids being retained, kids, what kind of grade level, for fourth grade, this is the number of kids percentile that are at this, nothing specific, just percentiles and stats.
Yeah, but that would be helpful.
That does not happen, and I do have it in my, that's also something that Charlie has brought up a few times. And we have a few things coming up at the next meeting, and that is in my notebook to definitely discuss.
So that would be nice to, especially at the end of the year, like we
Yeah.
do a end of the year fiscal report, it'd be
Mhm.
really nice to see an end of the year grade report.
It would even be nice to see throughout the quarters.
Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yep,
Okay.
we will talk about that.
Anything else for education committee?
It was nice, and I hadn't really thought about it this way, but you had mentioned the Owl's Nest, the restorative classroom. Another thing that was implemented as a pilot this year in Jaffrey Grade School was the STEM program. So to see all of those gain traction and then get expanded, because also they're replicating the Owl's Nest concept here as well.
Oh, okay.
One of your hires here tonight, Megan Alberta, will be helping design and lead that change. So there's continuity throughout the system.
So there'll be a nest in every school.
There'll be, there's,
That's wonderful.
Loving it.
I haven't heard about the names, but yeah, it might,
Oh, I'm thinking
It
about
might
the
be a
bird's
nest.
nest and the
Yeah.
rat. I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, it's like a crazy area.
yeah.
All right, ready for segue? Okay, legislative committee met and we're gonna meet again. We haven't set the time we want to meet before middle of October is when the delegate assembly comes, and we want to meet well before then to talk about the items on the table for the articles that they want to put forward. We could not think of any articles to ourselves, bring to the board. But if you guys, as you look at the School Board Association items that are up, if you guys have suggestions, that's great. One of the things that the legislative committee would like to ask the board, specifically the superintendent, but honestly, it could be anybody, really. We would like to have a prepared response should the Education Bill 306, which is still kind of sitting, but could at any moment be placed as a rule of educational minimum standards. It's been the 10 years, it's up for a change. The standards are changing so dramatically, and there's been so little transparency and communication about any edits that we would like to ask to have for our district to have a prepared statement for as soon as that comes out, and should it pass as written currently, we would like a statement saying, good for them. We are going to stick with our standards. That's we do not want anybody thinking that our district is going to lower our standards because the state said all of a sudden we don't need to do
X, Y,
a
Z.
million things.
Mhm.
And, or basically not do a million things.
Mhm.
So I would love to see us have a prepared statement. So that as soon as that news hits anybody, should that happen, that Facebook, newspaper, everything, blast, website, blast with, here is our response to that.
We will
I would
not
like
be
that not to
lowering
be,
our standards.
yeah, because this is imminent
Mhm.
and nobody is sharing when imminent, but it is.
Mhm.
And so I don't want us to be scrambling. I would like the public to know where we stand.
How do the rest of us find out about that? I've seen Bill 306, but is there a most recent version of it that we should
There's
look at?
absolutely no change. There has been no change since March that has been posted.
Okay, and
Although there's been at least 5 or 6 public meetings and one of which the commissioner attended and spoke. Again, not one edit, not one change has been shown since March. So it could literally come as is.
so what, do you have a sense from, you know, your investigation is what the motivation behind lowering the standards is?
I think it has a great deal to do with what Ruben was personally. And I want to be, I could care less about being careful. I think it has a great deal to do with what Ruben was saying about vouchers and about if we can lower standards, then our public schools basically won't have to hire many of the staff that we hire, many of the faculty that we hire, because it just won't matter. You know, we won't need to have certain
Or be a reading
programs. We won't
specialist.
need to have class sizes will go up exponentially. Yeah, this is huge. Yeah, they take away so many of the basic elements of here is what we think a good education involves. So it's huge. It's very broad. And it down to, I think I mentioned last time, down to the details of custodial staff not using poisonous chemicals during the school day with kids. So it gets that detailed, like, meaning they don't now, and they will be able to, all those restrictions will be taken off. Many things that we think, one basic one, every school doesn't need a principal. You could have a principal for multiple schools. You could have a superintendent. It was something like that. It was like a major, like, why do we have an admin? It's just, there's so many details. I couldn't summarize it. There really are so many areas it touches. So I would love to see us have
Can I just ask Ruben, can you give us any additional information? I know you've been following this issue at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if I were to sum it up, I think it's a response to the concept of providing equity. I mean, they took the language of equity out, and equity is very different than equality, and so equity is providing people what they need in order to be able to get to where we want them to, where they can be. And not everyone enters on the same, in the same place with the same background and so forth. And certainly we want all people to excel. We want everyone to be able to be provided a great education, and that and that's our job. There's clearly financial motivation behind some of this. It would be, I don't know if anyone would say that. I think, there's been a lot of accusations made if you have attended some of these events and watched the feedback sessions, and there's not a lot of response. As you stated, there's feedback sessions. There haven't been changes made. I have thoughts, but they're very political in nature, and you have some people who think a certain way, who vote a certain way, and the majority is there, and there's an opportunity to make some changes that go along with a specific ideology. that ideology is in conflict with what our mission is. That's the statement. It conflicts with engaging, empowering, and inspiring all learners to thrive in their lives and communities.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If we made a statement, if this passed and we made a statement that said we won't lower our standards, I believe we should do. What does this do to the default budget?
I don't think it addresses the default budget.
If these things are no longer required.
By law.
by
Yep.
law?
Well, these are the EDS 306 rules. But I would need to
Okay.
look at that.
What about the status of the bill? You said that it's not been brought forward, but it's not been killed. Is that, do we know exactly where it stands? Is it on the table or waiting to? be
What,
attached?
I'm sorry,
Hmm?
where Ed
The,
306?
the Bill 306 that you're talking about, is it
Ed
waiting to
306
be attached to a bigger bill, or is it something that's gonna be brought forward?
Don't know why they're waiting, yeah,
Okay.
don't know why they're waiting.
Okay.
That, again, it hasn't changed since March. I think I believe all of the public sessions that they set up are completed. There might be one more though, so I think they wanted to wait for those, so I don't know.
There's been a lot of scrutiny about whether all of the sessions that, because there's been many sessions, whether it's much of any of the feedback has been placed into any new revisions.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of concern. And some educators who started, I think, hopeful, working on the groups, have left that.
As I do need to backtrack a little bit. The legislative committee is asking the board to ask the superintendent to prepare a statement. But that's these three people on this committee saying that we believe that this is something that does not follow our mission. That might not be the case for all board members. And so we do want to vote on this because this does involve money. And there are much broader, New Hampshire is not the only state dealing with this stuff whatsoever. And the politics involved and the values involved really are a side issue to the money. And unfortunately, there is a cultural drive right now to, against public schools. And this is very much part of that drive. Now, I'm speaking for me. So we do need to vote on this.
And truth be totally so, like what you bring up a very good point, and what you're saying is truthfully, our standards could be forced to be lowered due to the fact that we cannot budget in
Right,
certain things
right.
if we don't get the funding for it. So I hear what you're saying. You're right. We could be forced to actually lower our standards because, well, sorry, we're not voting. We're not going to give you the money that you need for these specialists or these teachers because we don't need them. And that will save my tax money as opposed to thinking about the outcome of the children.
Yeah. Federally, we have to provide specific special education services. Federally, we never have to provide AP services.
Right. Right.
And AP is a piece. Athletics is a piece.
Correct.
Specific food services are a piece.
Correct.
There's a lot
Yep,
You know,
Yep.
it's just,
just class size,
Who are
Class
the
size is a
other two
big one.
members of your
Huge.
committee?
me.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought, you know, in our discussion, and I think we all recognize that a lot of these issues are sensitive politically. However, you know, s- my opinion anyways, is something like lowering the standards of, you know, to which we're gonna hold our students and our teachers shouldn't be something that's that controversial, like a statement, you know, is along those lines of, you know, we're not intending, and I don't believe we are. We haven't had that discussion, you know, as a board. But based on kind of my knowledge, I don't think our intent would be if this were to pass. I don't think that this board in particular would seize the opportunity, you know, to lower our educational standards or lower the services that we provide our students. So that was kind of I think probably capturing what we had discussed. So I think it's something we certainly want to be careful about. You know, particular wording for sure, but I do agree with Lisa that we want to be sure that we're not kind of expressing individual opinions here, rather the opinion of the board and the administration, I guess.
So how do we move from here on this issue? Do we vote on something? Do we, what should we come out of
I'm
this?
thinking we should vote on,
Do we want a statement?
that we would like us prepared statements so and publicized without coming back to the board. Can I do this? You know, which generally we don't ask Ruben to do. But, you know, and this is maybe this is all, it's kind of moot, like we do statements for lots of things. David does statements, the principals do statements, you know, we publicize things. This one's pretty big. And I guess I would like maybe just the superintendent to know that they have the school board's full backing to, you know, and support to say to the public, we are keeping our standards.
Knowing what that statement is. Yes.
Can
We'll
we,
have a lot
can
of
we
time.
play this out a little bit though? Because if the default budget, right now, the default budget and our operating budget are pretty close. If this bill passes, then if I understand this correctly, the default budget is going to drop significantly. And our operating budget is going to be really high comparatively. And so there is going to be pressure in all those deliberative sessions for us to bring that operating budget closer. Otherwise, people are just going to vote for the default budget.
Right, possibly, isn't that what the state would be doing, saying? Yes, there's a discrepancy, there's a big change here, however, these are the reasons, like. We're trying to keep our standards up. This is, and it would kind of give us more. I don't know, more of a open,
It's almost like an ethical statement,
I don't know.
mission statement or.
I think with that, I don't think any of us here knowing the specifics and the impact enough to, like, when we're talking about this budget stuff, I don't know if that's gonna happen, right? I don't think I've played that through, right? Is the default budget gonna drop significantly because of this? I'm not sure.
How could it not?
Well, New Hampshire has pretty
Lot of
long
layers of
history.
laws and such, I don't know.
Because the default budget is defined as the prior year's operating budget. You know, plus or minus. Legal or contractual.
Right.
You know, obligations changes.
I
And
think
so-
I don't think this changes the definition. of
So it doesn't
default
change
budget.
the definition of a default budget, but it most certainly would provide another layer of an opportunity to have great debate during, you know, it would cause debate's not bad, but I think what you're asking for is a value statement.
And an assurance actually too, because one of the main areas that I think, and we've talked about a couple of times, one of the main areas that's addressed is allowing class sizes to go much higher.
Yeah.
That is an issue to every parent. I
Definitely.
can't think of any parent that would say, yeah, bring on more kids into the classroom. That's, and certainly that's an issue for staff. And I think an assurance that we have no intention of doing that.
Right.
Would, that physically would actually help.
Talk about dropping the reputation of the public school. Go ahead and tell us that 40 kids are gonna be in one classroom. I
Yeah.
don't think that'll hold up.
Well, and changes like that, if we made kind of an abrupt shift to how we did business that way, would be probably arguably a change in working conditions that's subject to bargaining.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of domino moving parts. And yeah, reputation and then the economy of your entire towns, so people who might be interested in not having taxes, go up, have taxes going down. There's another side of that financially when people move away. And your property values aren't worth what they should be.
There's, a pretty strong tradition of support for schools, and it does seem like it's been under attack, certainly for a number of years here, but I do think there's a bipartisan belief in the importance of our schools. We've traditionally been rated very highly in education, educational outcomes at least, and I don't think that's by accident. So.
You mean New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Gone down in recent years,
Right.
last 6 or so, but still in the top 5 to 6.
So I would like to make a motion that we grant authority to the superintendent to draft a response to pending Ed 306 legislation.
And to bring it back to us for approval, right?
No.
No.
No, not to bring it back to us for approval. That's what I'm saying.
So what if Ruben says something that, or drafts something and then we look
So,
at it and we say,
should-
well, we don't agree with
All right,
that.
so should Ed 306 pass legislation as written currently and substantially lowering standards in various ways? What the legislative committee is asking is that a response be drafted now so that the day that that happens, we can assure our families and our community that this does not change what we are doing actively in Jaffrey Ridge. That we are
She's
not
not asking
looking,
for specifics.
that we are staying with our standards.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to point out that this school board only has another 8 months of existence, and a number of us have terms that will go beyond that, but not all of us. And so school boards change is my point. We can say this is how we feel, but I'm not sure if that's an assurance because the community has the right to vote in whoever they want.
So if it were something that he drafted and we brought back to look over, is that a better scenario?
I don't see, I think our point was we wanted a quick response.
And because
Assuring the community that we are not looking to change what we value.
but what you're saying is what you're saying I feel like I'm hearing two different things, like him draft a letter and almost like stopping there and say, what's the letter gonna say? But you're actually asking for a very specific statement of our standards will not change.
On a positive note, I think that if I were to have the honor of drafting this
I know you're
this
excited about it.
letter that I've learned about tonight. No, the
You
I-
have it already.
so I have thoughts. So I think, John, you're right. I'm not gonna go with the state. I'm gonna say the town has supported education. We talked about that in the district news. Thank you for being supportive. We are one of a handful of districts who has universal access to 4-year-old pre-K full day that's not in the standards. Full day kindergarten, that's still, by the way, not in the standards. You know, certainly most have half day. And they're at least funding, you know, some of that at least. So we have a tradition here of not doing the minimum. And we know that as an as a community to thrive, you can't just do the minimum. Because if you're doing the minimum in today's society, especially as things that the rate of change that takes place, you're just falling behind. So we have to be judicious about the things we're going to focus on, and we can't necessarily do everything, but what we do, we have to do really well. And making certain that what we do is in line with research is important to do. And unfortunately, the Ed 306s aren't aligned with research. Unfortunately, the concept that we currently subscribed in this state for choice isn't supported by research. Not if you're looking for results, not if you're looking for academic achievement. If that's your goal, then we're not going in that direction with any of this type of conversation. If a goal is choice is important and we should just give people choice or whatever, that's different. Then there's no, you know, okay. That's kind of where it's at right now. But if the goal is to actually have a set of schools and an educated body, an educated community that's thriving and that they have good educational outcomes that I think everyone cares about, then follow what the research says. And the research does not support certain types of change. There are other, not change, sorry, choice approaches. There are other choice approaches that are certainly
More valuable.
valued and evidenced by research shows.
All right, so is it best to then simply have the legislative committee recommend and the school board recommend to Ruben to prepare statements to that effect? That, I mean, what you just said about we've never completely followed these standards. We've always done more, and this is how we've done more. Here's an opportunity to again say, here is how we will continue to do more than the state is allowing. You know, as far as, I don't know, allowing is the wrong word. The state is minimizing. I mean, so does that make sense?
I think so.
As a
Certainly
recommendation?
having like John's input and Ruben's input of the community connection there, right?
Mhm.
This is not just what our school board believes, but this is what our community has told us
Yep.
time and time again is what they think is important. Yeah.
Mhm.
They added stuff this year.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Not true. All right, the next, again, we didn't set another legislative committee meeting at this time. We're gonna do that probably in August. We'll probably try to get together even August. The finance committee met, we did the buybacks. Can you continue discussion about the kind of data that we can have added to the dashboard that's going to be happening imminently, I know. And Carrie's going to look at encumbrances and purchases to create statistics that can be graphed for public viewing. At our August 19th meeting, or is it the 15th? Our next meeting is August, not next meeting, August 1st, the following August 19th, we're going to get an end of the year funds balance discussion. Everybody can look forward to that. Yeah, the committee's not going to meet on July 18th. Our next meeting will be on the 15th of August. And we had more discussion about the food service policy to clarify lots of information, and it's going to go before the policy committee to add a policy EFAA, which we don't currently have. So that's going to be coming to you guys very soon. And then on to policy committee. I'm taking too many notes, people. I shouldn't be secretary of 3 committees. Okay, policy meeting minutes. Okay, so we brought those policies forward to you. The only other thing that we added to that was we have a policy database and we were wondering who's going to be in charge of organizing that. And Carrie said that it's going to be our new, or Leslie said it's going to be the new school board secretary that hopefully we will have soon. And so the policies will remain updated through that. Our next meeting for policy will be August 1st at 4 p.m. First Thursday of the month. That's it for me. I'm signing off.
Thank you. Any other committee updates? Doesn't look like it. Back to the agenda. We have discussion items. I did have one quick item I wanted to discuss, but I was reminded of it when Lisa, you were talking about the handbook development and kind of the more time critical items. I know that in the last teacher contract, I think we removed the stipend amounts. And it's, I believe, on us, with the board and with the administration to draft some new ones. Didn't know how to get that started. I'd like to start that
Isn't there a committee on that? Susan?
discussion. Is there? That is a question.
Yeah, I mean, that's another, the planning of that is within the next couple of days. to get
Okay.
That all
I just
situated,
wanted to,
but you just took a very important step tonight by making some room by doing the buybacks in this year.
so that is something.
So that we have something to work with as we meet. It's tough to have a meeting with people without knowing exactly what our budget would be, but we have a better understanding of that
Okay.
now. So
I just
that's
wanted
the
to be
first
sure
thing that
that
needed
that
to
was-
happen. And that was really the primary reason for
I'm sure
asking for that.
I'm sure coaches are gonna be
Yep.
hired now.
Yep.
So I just want to be sure that was under discussion. Perfect. Any other discussion items? If not, we'll move forward to our second session of public comments. It looks like we do have somebody here in the audience right now.
Yeah, I'm with the press, so.
Oh,
I don't know how you guys do these things. I'm with the New Hampshire Journal and David Bishop. And I was here to ask about the teacher that we hired, who had been hired for facilitating abortion student. Certainly boundary violations and.
We need to stop and go to public if we're doing this.
We don't have a response.
Comment. Were we aware of that situation that you're filing this?
yeah, at this point, we're not commenting.
Kevin?
Thank you. Any other public comments online? All right. Moving on to adjourning to the non-public meeting. So do we have a motion?
Make a motion to go to non-public. For matters of. Personnel? Christine? I'm making a motion to go to non-public for matters of, I guess, reputation. I'll second.
I wonder if that will give them enough information to come up with 500 words or so. What do you think?
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Kim, John,
Hi.
Christine,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
All right, going non-public at 8:23.